this is a little bit alarming. This happened 6 hours ago. Rocket Labs obviously is the rocket system that's being out of New Zealand. They had all the crazy names for every launch they had, birds of a feather, all these welcome home or whatever they were. Each one had some pivotal name, and they sort of reminded me very, very much of the Illuminati cards, because a name quite often is like a symbolic thing. And it has meaning, and it might even have some type of mystery understanding for only those that know. So it's a little bit alarming now to find that because I thought they were just rocket launchers. They didn't have anything like what Elon Musk had, where the rockets would come back down to the ground, and when they separated, they'd have to go and send something out in the ocean to collect part of the planes or the part of the rockets. But they were always fascinating to watch, because they had a very, very interesting payloads. They have to tell you what's in the payload. And quite often they would say it was military from, the US, or it was military from, Korea, and all the different cameras that they were putting up there for the surveillance system around the world. And you can look, you can look into that information yourself and see what contracts and deals, and perhaps even patents that might be used. Just think, it's like they've got to get this stuff into the Southern Hemisphere. And now, this is really alarming, and now to find out that Rocket Labs are building missile warning constellation. Wow. So it's not just here in Australia where we're having, the guided missiles being built now in South Australia. We're also having the ballistic missiles being built in New South Wales. And we have Gilmore spacecraft up in Queensland, which are testing a lot of this equipment, and I will be doing a video on them very soon. I have to gather a little bit more information. Now, to find out about this with Rocket Labs is really telling you where the world's headed. The fact that we need to have some guided missile warning constellation in the Southern Hemisphere, and Australia needs to build all of these weapons, which also can be used with payload, because you're sending rockets and missiles. The only thing different between a rocket and a missile is one has a payload of weapons, and the other one just has a payload of spy surveillance, which are, in a way, weapons. They can't destroy you on the ground, but they can harvest your information, and they can, monitor you from above. So it's very, very alarming. So let's just have a quick little listen into this.
A moment that underscores our position as an industry disruptor in a growing space prime. I'm pleased to confirm that Rocket Lab has been awarded a landmark $816 million prime contract by the US Space Development Agency to design and manufacture 18 satellites for the Tranche 3 Tracking Layer program under the...
Okay, so the US government has got New Zealand to do this, and they're putting these 18 satellites up there. You heard that. 18 satellites that they're putting up so that they can surveil what's happening in the Southern Hemisphere.
Proliferated warfighter space architecture. A prime contract by the US Space Development Agency to design and manufacture 18 satellites for the Tranche 3 Tracking Layer program under the Proliferated Warfighter Space Architecture. Work under the award will begin immediately, with final delivery of the satellites for launch expected in 2029.
Okay, so they're starting the operations, or the gathering of the equipment, and until 2029 when it will be launched. This is all gearing up for 2030, Agenda 2030. You can hear that right in my voice. It's very, very scary. It's a contentious issue, and I'd love to know how the New Zealand people feel about this, because New Zealand at the moment has a very, very bad economy. They also are like lots of the countries in the West that have massive house shortages. They also have homelessness, and that's not just from lack of housing. Sometimes it's lack of finances. And then you also have, the lack of jobs that they have. So many Kiwis have jumped ship and have arrived here in Australia, compounding our dire circumstances here. Yes, we might have a little bit larger population. We have a larger area that you can converse across, maybe more possibilities and options for people. But at the end of the day, we still have the same issues. We're getting a lot more people still coming here. So we've got the internal migration, we have the internal southern hemisphere, you know, from New Zealand and the Papua New Guinea and all those type of islands which have been given free rights to live in Australia because their countries are drowning or being flooded out. So they've been given the opportunity to move to Australia, to settle here, bringing all their culture, bringing all of their behaviours. So once again, Australia is no longer a sovereign country when you start allowing people to migrate with the sole consent to carry on their life in their home country, in their new country, which is Australia. And that in some ways is a disgrace. I can understand these people haven't asked to come here. They've been told you need to leave your country. Your country is going to be flooded. You're not going to have any food. You're going to be isolated and cut off. And your government can't afford to spend that money on you. So come to Australia. And now to find all of this, it's very, very alarming. Do your research and let me know what you think. I'd love to know. So Godspeed to all. Godspeed.